You don't think they
Israel
have?
has been a terrorist state. Okay,
Hey.
Israel right now is imparting a genocide and a Holocaust on the Gazan people. So I'm really over this idea like somehow Israel has the moral high ground and we have to get behind them.
I didn't say
because
that.
we got to go after the bad
I
guys.
wasn't saying that.
But we have.
Oh, hang on. Look, we can come to Gaza where
I am going to agree with her a lot throughout this entire conversation. But we got to remember, she voted for this guy. A lot of Democrats, a lot of progressives have been saying this since day one. We've been warning people about how unstable, how unserious, how uneducated Trump is, and he will get us into something like this. He has so many ties that would benefit him financially to get us into some mess like this. And she's gonna hit on that, but she still voted for him. Now, the situation that we're in is weird. Like, we are living in a moment where nothing makes sense and everything is happening at the exact same time. Like, and it's hard to really wrap your head around like what's going on, because then the very next day or the next week or the next month, like another crazy moment happens. And right now we are in the midst of hopefully not starting a war. Like, we got one foot in and one foot out, and it doesn't take much for that other foot to officially get in. Like, anything can go wrong as I'm speaking right now. Like, you're probably talking too, but I can't hear you. Okay. And this brings up a weird dynamic when it comes to having these conversations with Republicans, or better yet, MAGA. And like we're going to get into, people like Candace Owens is how she is okay. She is right. Okay. Like, she is right. Okay. That's really hard for me to say, because someone like Candace Owens is a grifter. She is an opportunist. She, in my opinion, is someone who will stand in the way of black progression throughout the world. Like, she will single-handedly stomp the progression of black growth herself. That's how I despise her. So when situations like this happen, where it doesn't take a rocket science, you don't have to be a historian to see a situation like what's going on with Israel and Iran, and with the US participation. Like, you don't have to be a genius to understand, like, hey, we shouldn't be doing this. Like, zero. We should not be doing what Trump and this administration is doing. So when someone like Candace Owens says what we've been saying, progressives, what we've been saying since day one about Trump, it's kind of weird, because I would love to say, hey, Candace Owens gets some kudos for this, but she's such a disgusting person. It's hard for me to wrap my head around that. You see what I'm saying? So this is going to be a pretty long debate here. So let me show you what you guys have said here. Let me set this up. Boom, there it is. Oh, what is that? Hey, I got shirts for sale. Hey, get you one. So let's go ahead and take a look. I did post this poll about 2 hours ago, so this is fairly fresh here. We got 76 votes here, and 68% of you guys said yes, one take doesn't change much. And we have 21% says maybe, but be cautious about calling her an ally. And then 11% of you guys said not at all. She's right here. She is correct here. I probably should have phrased that better. But and one of the my favorite comments is, she helped get us into this mess. We keep letting people slide and we get slid into some ish. That is correct. And that's essentially my entire perspective on this. I am going to agree with her a lot throughout this entire conversation. But we got to remember, she voted for this guy. A lot of Democrats, a lot of progressives have been saying this since day one. We've been warning people about how unstable, how unserious, how uneducated Trump is, and he will get us into something like this. He has so many ties that would benefit him financially to get us into some mess like this. And she's going to hit on that. But she still voted for him. That is the problem. You don't get no kudos points for now pointing out the problem that you voted in. You voted this problem in. So okay, let's go ahead and get into it.
With that, okay, let's talk about impending World War III, as you put it. You are implacably opposed to what both Israel and now the United States have done here. Why?
Yeah. Because, well, first and foremost, just on the MAGA movement level, Trump came out and he gave us a promise that we were not going to be involved in wars. And I'm going back to 2015. Why did people get so excited about Donald Trump, who was then an unlikely candidate, who was being smeared by the media as being Adolf Hitler? Well, it was because he recognized that the American people were being forgotten while we were giving billions of unaccounted billions, by the way, for these never-ending wars. And so it's one of the earliest reasons that people got behind him and got behind his vision. And so we're opposed to a regime change because America as a country has a lot of problems that need to be fixed here first. It's that simple.
Right, but it's not quite that simple. And I'll explain to you why. Because Donald Trump, I think he's not been inconsistent in the sense that in his first term, he wasn't a pacifist. You know, he killed General Soleimani. He killed Baghdadi, the head of ISIS, and went after them ferociously. He attacked Syria when they killed American troops. He dropped a massive bomb in Afghanistan. It wasn't like he never deployed the American military. And again, here, what he would argue, and has been arguing, is he's not declared war on anybody. What he's done is very specifically target Iran's nuclear capability because of latest reports coming out, which said they had taken the enrichment of their uranium stocks from 3.5% to 60%, and that therefore the leap to weaponization was moving at a pace that couldn't be tolerated. I got to say, I kind of agree. Now, if he suddenly commits, troops on the ground, then that becomes a different thing altogether. But even when Trump talked about regime change, I think he meant from within, as we saw in Syria in December, where the people themselves rise up. And if that was to happen, why would that be a bad thing?
So you're asking a lot of questions here. So
Pierce brings up a good point here. And this should be like a hint of Trump's ability to be consistent. If that makes sense, like he has enacted many attacks on other countries. So it's kind of hard to say Trump is a president of no wars when he bombed and assassinated plenty of people, killed plenty of people. So just kind of weird, like no wars, but he's assassinating and killing innocent people. So you kind of already lose the battle with that. So let's hear Candace Owens' rebuttal.
The idea that you have to formally declare war on like a piece of paper in order for war to happen is a little bit ridiculous. I mean, he dropped bombs. He dropped bombs in Iran. So yes, we are a part of this war, whether we like it or not. Iran is now speaking and saying that they're going to shut down the Hormuz Strait. There's going to be impact on oil.
Why would they do that? Why would they do that when the main victim of doing that would be Iran? I mean, 50% of China, of the traffic of stuff through there is for China, which is one of their allies.
Don't care, not my business. The point that I'm making here is that to make the assumption that you can just drop bombs on a country and then say, well, you know what, we didn't formally declare war is patently ridiculous. I think that is just
But
patently
what about
ridiculous.
when he killed General Soleimani, one of Iran's top military commanders?
Sure, an assassination, a strike, and that, of course, came with some risk. It's a little bit different to be flying out B-6 bombers in the middle of the night and dropping bombs at the behest of Bibi Netanyahu, which brings me to the second point. The reason that America wants a regime change in Iran is because Bibi Netanyahu is demanding it. And that answers the question as to why there is this split in the MAGA movement. What we are seeing right now is the infiltration of Israel first people, the neocons, people who have always wanted never-ending wars, and the people who have recognized that following Israel's foreign policy initiatives has led to America being on the decline. And
So once again, she's kind of phrasing this a little weird, like Israel first Americans. Unfortunately, that's like probably 80% of Republican voters, and like all Republicans, like these are Christians who support Israel on religious basis. That makes a majority of Republican voters. So you can call them Israel first or Christians, whatever you want to call it. These are the main supporters of the Republican Party. It's not like a secret society or something. No, these are most of the evangelicals that we see supporting the Republican Party day in and day out. So once again, let's be honest. We don't have to call them Israel first. This is Republican voters as a whole. They support Israel through religious beliefs, as we've seen with Tucker Carlson and what's that idiot, that ugly dude's name? I forget. Ted Cruz, when he tried to give a biblical explanation on why he supports Israel, and it was very, very thin, very loose. That's 90% of Republican voters supporting Israel because the Bible says so. Sure, okay, got you.
And so that's where I stand. I am with the MAGA people who grew up, I call us like, Generation 9/11, who were told that America was going to be rendered safer, cleaner. All we had to do was agree to go to, well, ironically, war with Iraq because of weapons of mass destruction. It's all of the same rhetoric dating back to 9/11, all of the same tactics of trying to smear people who are against this war as supporting jihadists. It is not my business to affect a regime change in Iran. It's simply not our business. It doesn't impact us one way or the other. And we also are completely done with the idea that these decades-long idea that we're doing it to spread democracy because we believe in international liberalism. There was no imminent threat to the United States when Trump made this decision to do what Bibi wanted. And I want to be clear here. This was not Trump's decision. It was Bibi Netanyahu's decision. And that is the reason that he did it. And we're very aware that Israel is dictating our foreign policy, and we would now like that to stop.
Okay, but you wouldn't disagree, presumably, that Iran has been the main sponsor of terrorism in the Middle East through the Houthis, through Hezbollah, through Hamas. I mean, that's widely accepted and recognized. They've done
widely accepted. No, that's just kind of...
Really? You don't think they have?
Has been a terrorist state. Okay, Israel right now is imparting a genocide and a Holocaust on the Gazan people. So I'm really over this idea like somehow Israel has the moral high ground and we have to get behind them.
I didn't say that.
Because we've got to go after the bad guys.
I wasn't saying that.
We have.
Oh, hang on. Look, we can come to Gaza where.
See, when she's talking like this, it's interesting because it feels like we've heard this before. And once again, like throughout this whole like maybe 20 minutes that they're talking, everything that she has said that we agree on, progressives, individuals that I'm pretty sure you listen to, I listen to, and one person that always comes to mind is someone like Mehdi Hassan, someone like Mark Lamont Hill, or even Hassan Piker. They have been saying this way before. So if you agree with Candace and think she's right on this, two things. Why does she support a party, the entire party, every fraction of the Republican Party is all in on something like this. But when it comes to the Democratic Party, a small fraction, which it is a small fraction, opposes all of this. This is in the progressive playbook here. 101 being a progressive. So it's like, if you believe her and think she's correct on this, you should automatically support progressive policies. You might be a progressive yourself, because this is a one-on-one. This is the core of progressive thinking here. So it's just funny to me.
I think we'll reach agreement about what Israel's government's been doing there in the last few months. Without
But it's
any
relevant.
question.
If you're going to call Iranians terrorists, if they right now had an open concentration camp where they were mass killing their own people, we would all be saying this is ridiculous. So it's rich to me that people are concerned about Iran having nukes. What I'm concerned about Israel, who won't even admit that they have nukes, having nukes, while at the same time they are executing a genocide and a Holocaust in Gaza that the world is watching. So who's the bigger terrorist is the question today. I would say, as an American, that if we're going to get behind a regime change, it should be in Israel first. So that would be my position. I think the position of a lot of people who are waking up to the fact that Zionism has brought us nothing but grief in America. Can you name one positive thing that Zionists have contributed to America? That us fighting these perpetual wars on behalf of Zionism has contributed to America?
But can you also recognize that Israel, placed where it is, as a tiny thumbprint in the middle of a region where you have massive countries full of a lot of people that want to wish them harm, and in the case of the terror groups like Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis, actually want to get rid of Israel and all Israelis altogether, can you accept that if you have a huge nation like Iran with 90 million people, and they are facilitating these terror groups to that purpose, that Iran has to defend itself? Now, I would not disagree with you about what has been going on in Gaza in the last few months. I've been very vocal in my criticism of that. Nor do I disagree, by the way, that it wouldn't help Israel if they did have regime change and Netanyahu wasn't prime minister anymore. So on those points, I think we have agreement. But I come back to the fact that the reason Trump has done this, I think, is that he has for a long time said Iran cannot have a nuclear bomb. I think he's absolutely right to believe that would be a pretty terrifying escalation of the power of a country that's been so wedded to terrorism in the region. And I think he took the action for that reason. So I don't really agree that he's only doing it because Bibi Netanyahu wants him to go along and do it. I think he's doing it because he believes it's in America's strategic interest that Iran does not have a nuclear weapon.
Okay, so to skip his as we skip his ad here, her answer to his question, I swear to God, is something that Mark Lamont Hill has been saying on every single debate when it comes to Israel and the Palestinian people, Gaza, West Bank, or Iran, or Hezbollah, whatever the case is. It's just kind of weird.
It is not in America's strategic interest. There was no imminent threat. He could have taken this to Congress and he could have allowed the people's representatives to vote on whether or not
nobody does
it was
that.
in the American people.
No president in living memory has, with almost zero exceptions, has bothered to get congressional pre-approval for military strikes. We know that. You know that.
Yeah, we know that. And that's
Obama
not okay.
was the
By the way, that's not
Obama
okay. That's
did
not
more
an
strikes
argument.
than anybody, right?
Yes,
I mean, Obama never asked anybody for any permission.
I'm not an Obama supporter. Yeah, that doesn't make it okay. By the way, like that argument, just so we're clear, saying, well, we've been doing it wrong forever, so we should just keep doing it wrong, is not an argument that it's right.
I don't disagree.
Hey, once again, she is correct on that. And I mean, it's weird how Republicans always, well, Biden did this, Obama did that. That's exactly what we always been saying. It doesn't matter who's doing it. It is incorrect. And in most times it's illegal. So like, that's a good point. I hope she remembers this. Just because some other president has done it and the one before doesn't mean it is okay to do it, for any president to do it or continue to do it. That is the problem. That is the point. Oh my, like what are we doing here? I need to disagree with her more. Come on.
Agree with you about that.
Okay, so I disagree with Obama doing it. I disagree with Trump doing it.
Enough.
And especially when what we're talking about is what could rise to be a nuclear war, right? We should have done things the right way. And he had indicated that he was going to wait 2 weeks, and then he didn't wait 2 weeks because Bibi Netanyahu, at least according to the Israeli press, if you believe it, said, we're not waiting 2 weeks. We want this done immediately. But I will say you are correct.
But isn't it kind of weird that Obama, for everything that you may not like about him, he negotiated something, right? Whether you like the details or not, I mean, it seems pretty self-explanatory to me. He did something. And what did Trump do? What was one of the first things he did? He tore it. He deleted it. Obsolete. Undo button. So once again, it's kind of weird that he destroys the treaty and now has an issue, or Israel creates an issue that now Trump is not going to negotiate. He's not going to sit down and try to create some compromises between the two. No, he just bombs the country. Gotcha. Okay.
He's not just doing this because Bibi Netanyahu demands it. He's also doing it because Miriam Adelson demands it. He took $100 million from Miriam Adelson. It was very clear what she wanted. She was clear that she wanted to annex the West Bank. So there was an imperialist plan that was put into place. And unfortunately, when you do a deal with the devil, you're going to have to eventually deliver the pound of flesh. And that is what Trump is doing, in my opinion. And more evidence of that is the fact when he tweeted that there could be a Trump hotel in Gaza. I mean, that was truly, in my opinion, the most inhumane thing he's ever tweeted.
Okay, the most inhumane thing he's ever tweeted. Okay, first off, you need to read some more tweets. I'm sorry, okay? If you thought that was crazy, read some more. Second off, that whole deal that he had with that lady, I covered that. I covered that months before the election. I covered it. It only got a couple hundred views because people don't really care about stuff like that. So it's kind of weird that she brings that. Once again, this is the hypocrisy here. This is why I struggle to give her any kudos or any cool points, because of things like this. That was figured out way before the election, and you still voted for him. That is the problem. We been known about this. Oh, but now it's an issue. Well, guess what? It is too late. The dude is already president. He's president. And now you sitting here angry, yelling at Piers Morgan. I mean, it's cool, but it doesn't mean nothing now. Trump doesn't care about you. He doesn't care that Candace Owens is mad at me. No, it's too late. You already voted, and he's already president. Jesus Christ, man.
I think it was pretty clear what he was doing there was pretty clear. He's saying he wants a better life for Palestinian people, a life where they have beaches,
well, when you
and they
pair
have
that
hotels,
with Jared
and they have golf
Kushner
courses.
and Jared Kushner's private equity firm and their ties to what's happening in Israel, and Jared Kushner being on camera shortly after October 7th saying, wow, that property could be worth a lot of money, it makes me a little bit uncomfortable. It makes Americans a little bit uncomfortable. Now, you've asked me to come onto your show to explain to you how the now very fractured MAGA movement is feeling, and I'm telling you that, right?
No, it's really. I find the split in the conservative movement in America genuinely fascinating, because it really is a genuine schism now.
Yeah, there's a genuine schism, and it's only going one direction. And by the way, we shouldn't even call this a schism, because trying to dress this up and delude us into believing that the MAGA movement is what has Meghan McCain cheering, John Bolton cheering, has Mark Levin cheering. The literal faces of the Never Trump movement are saying this is real MAGA. Yeah, we're not going to be that delusional.
But you're on the same side as Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez. How do you feel about that?
You're asking about the MAGA movement. The MAGA movement has always been a movement that explicitly did not want to keep involving our sons and daughters in the Middle East. So we have not changed that position.
Okay, but here's a but. You knew someone unstable like Trump was not going to care about breaking a promise with voters. And we've seen that in the first 5 months of his second term as president. So it's just a little weird. You get what you voted for. A lot of people, it's weird, they voted for Trump hoping that he would do the exact opposite of what he was talking about during his campaign trail. It's just kind of weird. So I'm sorry, you missed me with that. Okay.
If AOC was always anti-war, then she should have thrown on a red hat in 2020 and in 2015 and joined the MAGA movement. That would have been fantastic.
But are you saying?
But she's always been anti. Okay. Hey, we got a long video, man. I need to stop pausing, but it's just so much of a small bull. But I mean, she's correct on it. But it's just a lot of small little turds under that truth that she's speaking here. I'm sorry.
America should never
Candace,
use
you're
any
on the
military
same side
action.
as Greta Thunberg when it comes to the Palestinians
Right,
being
but are you saying,
murdered
Candace,
every day.
are you saying?
I am. I'm aligned.
Okay, but are you saying that America should never use any military action then?
No, I'm not saying America can never use any military action. In fact, what I said earlier was I could get behind a regime change in Israel because I think it would fix a lot of issues that are happening and that has been happening to America over time. Like I said,
why
America
wouldn't you want it in Iran? I mean, I'm reading an Amnesty International report from 2024.
Because Iran is not negatively impacting. I'm answering your question because Iran's regime is not negatively impacting America on a day-to-day basis.
When the leader of Iran says death to America, why doesn't that concern you?
That's a chant. And by the way, I want to be very clear. Why are they chanting death to America? Why are they chanting that? That's kind of a random thing. Like I don't wake up one day and go like,
dead?
But why do they want? Why are they specifically chanting as opposed to saying, I don't know, death to China or death to Russia? What is it specifically about America?
Well, they say death to America, death to Israel, death to the United Kingdom, actually.
Oh, okay.
Death to pretty much anyone that wants to stand up to them.
Could have had something to do with our actions in the Middle East is why I'm saying that we need a change in foreign policy. It maybe has something to do with just like killing 1 million Iraqi civilians, because Bibi Netanyahu got on a congressional stage and said there are weapons of mass destruction, and we took that to the bank, and there actually were no weapons of mass destruction, so we just killed 1 million. It could have something, I could be crazy, it could have something to do with our actions in the Middle East. The fact that we have 2,000 troops stationed in Syria right now under the guise of saying that we're fighting ISIS, while at the same time we know that Bibi Netanyahu funded the Al-Qaeda adjacent front because he wanted to overthrow Syria, and they again expand their borders, immediately take on territory and sell us absolute nonsense. We're talking about funding Hamas. Bibi Netanyahu funded Hamas. There is footage of Bibi Netanyahu saying this stuff on camera. So it's just so ridiculous to me to pretend that they're in some predicament, that they may be eradicated soon, which is why they have to keep funding all of these terrorist groups and then pretending that they're victims of terror, terror, when in fact they are the people that are imparting it worldwide. You know, I just think that, like I said, Generation 9/11 has grown up, and I think that our eyes are very clear here, and we recognize that our relationship with Israel has become increasingly problematic, and it always was problematic. So I'll again ask the questions, Piers. I'm asking you because we're having a conversation. Name something positive that our Zionist AIPAC foreign policy has brought to America.
Hey, slow down. Okay, breathe. Take a damn second, okay? She ain't lying. She's not lying. We can easily, and I looked this up. I wanted to gather a list, but it was so much. It was so many countries that America has stuck their greedy little fat little fingers in, overthrowing governments. It's just all kind of shit. This is why they chant death to America. Just this past weekend, I was gathering all my notes so I can really get a good depth insight of this Iran and Israel thing, right? As I'm taking notes, it was just rinse and repeat on a lot of these situations. And it always sometimes, somehow, some way boils down to money, resources. In America, in other Western countries, just can't keep their hands to themselves. Look it up. Look up the history, and then you can figure out why They don't like America. And not because we're so cool and so handsome, so pretty. No, it's because we fucked up their country. We fucked it up so bad. They look at us as the bad guys. We are their bad guys. We are the Thanos in their story. So Mr. Pierce is like, well, why are they chanting death to... Bro, read some books. Read some books. Google some things, and you'll find out. It's not hard. It's not complicated.
Well, I think the positive side of, if you want an answer about that, is that America has been Israel's steadfast ally because it recognizes as a country that Israel has been under an almost unique, multifaceted threat on its border for a very long time from people that want to destroy it. And you know that you may not see that as a benefit, but Israel has been very supportive to the United States in many ways. Right, so why shouldn't America?
I just want something concrete that has been benefit. Like, we got better in America in this way. Like, just name something. Gas prices, just something that the average American can relate to.
Well, you're not going to have a correlation between Zionism and gas prices in America. Of course, you're not.
No, I'm just giving you an example. To just tell me one thing that
tangible
because what your argument here is like, well, you get a pat on the back and you can say that you helped this country, which was formed in 1948 by pretending to be refugees, if you will, and being invited into the homes of Palestinians, the horrific story
of what happened.
Well, they weren't
pretending to be refugees. They were people fleeing a Holocaust.
Let's be clear. Let me finish my statement.
What do you mean pretending to be refugees?
Let me finish my statement. When I say pretending to be refugees and being invited into the home, you would think that these people were helpless and were going to be grateful to the people that hosted them. People like Muhammad Hadid, Bella Hadid and Gigi Hadid's father, who was an infant at this time in his mother's arms. She had just given birth. They had invited these refugees because of the goodness of their heart. And then one day they return home and their doors are locked and they are told that if you try to enter, you are going to be shot and killed. That is the reality of how Israel was established as a state. Okay, that is not a stain that you can wipe from history. Most Americans growing up actually believe what happened was that, okay, it was a little messy. That's what happens after wars. Borders get changed. But at the very least, they were given money. I mean, you've lived here for hundreds of years. Here's money for your property. No, that's not what happened. They were forced out of their homes. But it's also true.
Yep, that's the great Nakba. If you don't know about that, hey, what you doing? Go read something, okay? And it's funny because the top comment on this video is, now I know why Candace is no longer at the Daily Wire. This right here, which shit, man, damn, okay. I appreciate the honesty. Damn, man, that just sounds weird. She ain't lying, though. She ain't lying. So...
at gunpoint.
Listen,
and it's wrong. So we get to be the nation pat on the back. According to you, the thing that America gets. Let me finish. I'm going to let you finish. It's your show. We can. But let me finish. Your argument is that what we get to be is that nation that keeps supporting it as they continue to move their borders in this way. Now we're seeing that incursion into Gaza, and we are certainly going to see it by the end of this administration in the West Bank. Because, like I said, that is why Miriam Adelson gave Trump $100 million.
Look, as you know, I oppose what the Israeli government is doing now in Gaza. I oppose the expansion of settlements on the West Bank. I think all of that is completely wrong. I do think America supports Israel because it remains the only democracy in the Middle East, and that's an important...
They're not a democracy. Stop saying that, Pierce. You know better.
Well, they have elections.
Hey,
they have elections.
Hey, she is knocking his head over every single point. She is clapping the cheeks here. Like, just when you right, when you know you right, you right. You see what I'm saying? And it just sucks that Candace Owens is still, at the end of the day, at least in my opinion, a POS. A piece of shit. I'm sorry. But when it comes to this particular moment, this particular subject, hey, I probably could have said it better myself, but hey, she doing a good job. It's kind of weird.
But who gets to vote in those elections? Do the Gazans get to vote in that election?
Nope.
The Israelis get to vote in Israel, obviously.
Okay, so you're basically saying America had a democracy, when we had
Israel
laws
ceded
that said Black Americans couldn't,
Israel,
Black Americans
Israel
couldn't
moved
vote.
out. It is indisputable that Israel moved out of Gaza in 2005, and there was an election, and Hamas got elected. Right now,
Yeah,
I
and
agree.
that's because
I agree with you. I agree with
but
this.
Bibi Netanyahu was on camera saying that they were going to fund Hamas into power.
Listen,
so they orchestrated
Candace,
that because they wanted to create
Candace,
this
I haven't
illusion.
finished. I agree with you that Netanyahu wanted to cause a split between the Palestinian Authority and Hamas. It was divide and rule. It was a catastrophically bad strategy, and it led to what happened on October the 7th over a 20-year period. There's no doubt it was a terrible thing that Netanyahu did, one of the many reasons I think he should go. But there was no doubt that the Israelis pulled out of Gaza and allowed them to have elections, and they elected Hamas, and the rest has been disastrous history.
Because the Israelis funded, because Bibi Netanyahu, they funded Hamas.
I don't disagree with you, but they still had elections.
So it's like we rigged an election, but look what the election results show is that they wanted to put Hamas into power. And so when we talk about who is funding these terrorists, the answer is Bibi Netanyahu. And I don't want to get into his corruption trials, but every single person watching this right now should go pursue the documentary, The Bibi Files, because it is absolutely stunning to understand.
I believe one of the reasons. I believe one of the reasons.
Let me answer the question, because you still haven't given me anything other than like you guys get a pat on the back for supporting this created nation in the Middle East. I also just like to say all of the bad things that we have gotten because of our continued relation with Israel. First and foremost, the open borders. And you can relate to this. People in the UK, they just can't seem to connect the dots.
All right.
Oh my gosh, what's happening here?
Let me get a word in.
But I want to say this. Okay, we don't understand where all these refugees are coming from. Oh my God, where are all these refugees coming from? Who's funding them coming over into these borders? Well, this is what you get when you keep supporting these nonstop wars, when you keep bombing where these people live. And it's not even just a conspiracy.
How long have, Jesus Christ, man, Jesus, oh Lord, how many times have progressives, because I listen to a lot of progressives, obviously. And the debate with Mark Lamont Hill and I forget his name, the racist guy who created the Proud Boys. Go ahead and watch that if you haven't watched it. He even said, we keep destroying these other countries for the sake of their resources or whatever the case is, and we create these refugees, and we get mad when they want to come to America. One of the wealthiest, greatest places on earth. We wonder why we have so many refugees wanting to come here. And when we have a broken immigration system, then we're confused on why they want to just sneak in here. It's crazy. So people like Trump just shut off the borders, but not fix the problem in the first place. Hey, hello, hey, Candace, I'm sorry, but we've been talking about this. We've been here. Where you been? You ain't been here. It's kind of weird. Republicans ain't saying this. MAGA ain't saying this. Liberals, depending on, I guess, who you talk to. But the progressives, we've been talking about this. So where you been? Kind of weird. I don't know.
By the way, if you're like, oh, well
actually, you're wrong about this, because the vast majority of people coming into the UK illegally are not coming from war-torn countries in the Middle East. They're actually economic migrants.
Okay.
So that's not true.
Okay, but let's connect that. When you say economic migrants, are we talking about like
people who literally want to come to the UK for a better life?
And when Gaddafi was heading up Libya and the country was on the up and up, and he was working with the United Nations, and then all of a sudden he warned that if you collapse Libya and turn it into a place where refugees are escaping, that this is going to be your problem, Europe. He warned that. So then it actually happened, and now we're just calling them economic migrants. We're going to pretend
I'm not
that we have
talking
nothing
about
to
people
do.
coming from Libya.
Okay, where are you speaking about?
Well, for example, I think it was last year, a third of all the people who came into the UK on the border on the small boats illegally, it turned out were young economic migrant males from Albania, which last time I checked, we hadn't invaded. So look, let me pull you back to something you said, which has caused a lot of controversy.
I don't know. I would have to check that, because I done pulled up a list, and it was too much for me to even put into my notes. This list is, man, come on now.
Which is this issue of dishonorable discharge. Let's take a listen.
I do believe that if war in Iran is on the agenda, and that appears so, get dishonorably discharged. Who cares? Who cares? Why should you go die in a foreign land? You now have the benefit of 2020. You can see, think about those men and those women who died because they were pitched that they were serving their country because there were weapons of mass destruction, right? They were serving their country because the Taliban, they were serving their country, whatever, and these people gave up their lives. And ask yourselves, for what? And the answer to that question is for the elites. They're like toy soldiers.
When you said that, were you aware of the repercussions if people dishonorably discharged?
So just to put this into context, this is like the Q&A, live Q&A portion at the end of my show. And being facetious, but also being completely honest, that they should begin to consider, and that was somebody asking, what should we do? Like, should we leave the military? Because they also
do you regret
are
saying
recognizing that? No, I don't regret saying that. I don't
But you
regret
know the
having
repercussions if you do
think
discharge
about,
dishonorably.
Okay, well, I would imagine that the people that are in the military who were going to, if they were going to listen to my podcast and they were going to dishonorably discharge, that they would know the consequences. So it's completely ridiculous. And again, we see this over and over again where people can't answer the broader questions. They try to suddenly peg in, well, you said this one thing. No, the broader conversation that we are having.
Candace, it's not a small thing.
No, let me finish. Let me finish. Let me finish.
You're basically you're encouraging U.S. servicemen and women to dishonorably discharge.
You play a clip, and I'm trying to answer it. You know, you can't do that. You ask a question.
Well, you're trying to downplay it,
and I'm responding. No, I am. No, you're trying to upplay it. Is what the issue is. This is exactly.
I'm just repeating what you said.
You're not. You're playing what I said, and I'm responding to it and telling you that the broader piece of that conversation, when you have troops that are now asking that question, is they are recognizing that America is in steep decline, that our military comes back and they are treated like dirt, that a lot of these men, and we're talking about decades, white American males come back and they're told that they're racist and they're treated like crap, that they're white supremacists, that they have a different vision for this country. So why are they dying in these
What? That was kind of weird. I don't know how she connected those dots. If you come back after war, who's calling you racist unless you've done something racist? I mean, that's pretty simple. When at least for me, I'm not calling people racist if they haven't done nothing racist or said nothing. So that's just kind of weird that she connected that. But that's Candace Owens for you. Hey, there you go. Just got to interject something like, oh, white men are being attacked. Come on now. Stop playing.
These wars for Bibi Netanyahu. Okay. And let me, again, try to answer that question that I asked you at the beginning, which is, what has Zionism won America?
I'm not going
what
to keep coming back to the same thing.
No, let me finish. Why won't you let me answer that? Why won't you let me
actually
say what people are recognizing? You come back and there are open borders and you're told that you are racist, okay? You come back and you're told that you are racist if you don't want open borders. Meanwhile, you're sent overseas to defend Israel's borders. It's a nonsense. And who's funding these open borders? According to Barry Weiss, and I quote, Barry Weiss said this verbatim, the Jewish connection to the refugee is not a conspiracy. That's something that we are very proud of. And she was referencing the organization HIAS, and she says it explicitly, which she said what was started by them in the 1880s, which includes immigrants that have come in like Sergey Brin. They are still the organization that is operating at our border right now, okay? That is problematic, that we have open borders while we continually and routinely are told that we have to defend somebody else's borders, okay? And again, these never-ending wars in the Middle East at the behest of Israel. Bibi Netanyahu is the one that called for Americans to invade Iraq, Libya, Syria, Afghanistan, and now Iran, and we've done it. We're told Israel can defend itself, okay, but why do we have currently 2,000 troops that are in Syria under the guise of fighting ISIS? And like I said, we know Israel themselves fund terror-adjacent militants like they did to overthrow Assad. And we're done with the BS of, okay, well, they weren't really involved, Israel, in Afghanistan, because even when we fight those never-ending wars, Israel wins. Everybody knows that our boys were out there in Afghanistan guarding poppy fields, okay? And do you know what happened after we allegedly, quote unquote, lost in Afghanistan? What happened to all those poppy fields, those poppy flowers that our military was guarding? Well, the opioid crisis hit America via the Sackler family, who quite literally built the School of Medicine at Tel Aviv University. So we're just done, okay? And there's no way that we're going to go backwards. We're not going to allow you guys to emotionally condition us to go, oh, well, we got to protect Israel because of the Holocaust. It is over. They're imparting a Holocaust. America would like off this crazy train.
Okay, for the benefit of you.
Hey, once again, she's weird with the whole racism thing, but the bigger conversation in regards to Israel, she ain't, what is she lying about? I don't know, man. Hey.
Viewers who don't know what I was talking about, under the Uniform Code of Military Justice, Article 19, dishonourable discharge can result in forfeiture of all pay and allowances up to 5 years confinement, which is a pretty heavy penalty to pay.
Yeah, I'd want my kids to go to jail before they fought for Israel. I'll say that honestly.
Damn.
Okay.
I would.
Hey.
I have 3 sons, and I'm going to be honest with you, Pierce. I'm glad you told me that consequence. I'd take that consequence any day to them being sent back over in a coffin because they died for Israel. So.
Okay, but yeah, I think the one thing you're missing,
opinion.
look, I come from a big military family, a lot of military in my family, and a lot of people fighting wars on behalf of the United States are not doing it because they think Bibi Netanyahu wants them to. They're doing it because
some of them do that, and they write into my show and I answer the question.
But many of them won't, and they might be offended by you suggesting that's the only reason they're doing it.
And they can watch your show, and they can be offended all they want, but I think it's more offensive the way that our military is treated, the veterans are treated, and the gaslighting that takes place when we're told that we have to defend everybody's borders, but
I actually think America treats its veterans better than almost any country in the world.
I mean, this has always been an open conversation, and I'm just saying that if my boys were being drafted to fight this war in Iran, I would be like, you know what, honey, take the other option. And that's not because it's cowardice. It's because when you sign up for the military.
Okay, but I would say that the pilots,
you are
so
pledging
far,
that you are doing something that is going to better your country.
But Candace, so
and
far,
like I said, our country has been in steep decline since we have been part of this foreign policy, which is just whatever Israel wants.
Okay, but you made that point. But what I would say to you is the only people so far that have been involved from the American military were the extraordinarily courageous and skillful pilots who flew these B-2 bombers and attacked the nuclear sites and got back safely. So there's been no troops on the ground committed at all, no declaration of war by the United States. We can quibble. Listen, I don't disagree with you. You bomb somewhere, you probably are at war with them. But there is no official declaration of war, just as Trump, when he took out Soleimani and Baghdadi and he attacked Syria and so on, he didn't declare war on those places. And actually it turned out that the apocalyptic warnings of those actions never materialized. So we shall see. I can't let you go without asking. Let me ask you just quickly about the Tucker Ted Cruz debate. What did you make of that?
All right. That I really don't care. Hey, guess what, guys? Thank you for watching. If you made it this far, let me know in the comments down below. Once again, like, I don't consider Candace Owens an ally. Just like one of my subscribers said it in the comments, it's the broken clock syndrome. Just because you write about one or two things, but you're just dead ass wrong on everything else, and that involves Black Americans, your own people, and you just shit on them every day that you can, I'm sorry, you're not an ally. We just so happen, agree on this one thing that progressives have been saying, screaming since day one, since I've been watching them. And I've been watching Mark Lamahan like 10 years now. So it's just a little weird. But once again, guys, thank you for watching. If you made it this far, let me know in the comments down below. If you agree with anything I said in this video or disagree, let me know in the comments down below, or hit that blue sky link in the description down below so we can have that one-on-one talk. And like always, let's have that conversation.
Forever, I've been in the field with whatever they throw at me, brush it off, pick myself up, moving on to the better. Hey. Ain't no errors, baby, it's a new era. I wake up early feeling rich like I'm Kesha. I get to the paper, boy. Extra. Fuck with me, you know that.